It takes you 5 times as long to get a new company to locate someplace than it does to keep the old one that you have. So that's critical. Attraction. We are the marketing folks for this region, and we go all over the world to do that. We have 80 foreign-owned companies in this area. Almost 40 of them are from Germany. So we go to Western Europe to attract, but we also go to the Far East to attract. China, Japan, and Korea. And when I first took this job 20 years ago, it was pretty much around the auto industry and around the furniture industry. Well, today it's also around the life sciences and alternative energy prospects, because we want to get into those new industries as well. That's number one. Number two is the life sciences and all of the emerging industries that I think we can capture on. Now, if you would have asked me 11 or 12 years ago that I, Birgit Klohs, would be marketing life sciences, medical device companies, WIMSTI, which of course is a collaborative between the university, the Right Place, the City of Grand Rapids, Van Andel Institute, Spectrum Health, and St. Mary's, and obviously is housed up at the Cook DeVos Center, that we would be marketing this area as a potential life sciences cluster? No way. But the Van Andel Institute birth back in 1996 gave an impetus to all kinds of that development. It gave birth to the Cook DeVos Center on Michigan Street Hill. They wanted to be close to the Institute. It gave birth to the expansion of Spectrum Health. They did it because they wanted to co-locate with the research that was going on at the institutes. And it certainly gave birth to the Michigan State Med School. So you really have a four-legged stool. You have the hospitals, you have the universities, GVSU and Michigan State, and you have the Van Andel Research Institute. That's a very powerful combination. We also co-market our life sciences infrastructure with our friends down in Kalamazoo. Even though Pfizer has obviously downsized a lot, they still have extraordinary life sciences infrastructure. So when we go to a bio show or we go overseas, we often go along, because it's an hour drive from here to Kalamazoo. So if President Haas is trying to attract a PhD professor with a trailing spouse, well, maybe there's a job at Pfizer or there's a job at Perrigo, okay? I mean, this is a very, very powerful collaborative to say we have life sciences infrastructure, and in a big city like Boston, traveling 50 minutes is about 10 miles, right? We have to get over this, you know, that we're not part of the same region, and really this is very much a regional effort. Number two, on the emerging, again, big collaboration with the university is all around alternative energy. The Right Place, the West Michigan Strategic Alliance, the university, and MAREC and Muskegon, and our economic development partners put out a big report on the opportunities that our companies can take advantage of around alternative energy. And we need to do that probably as much as life sciences. It's on our website, by the way. It's a pretty big report, and we think we can play a role in 2 areas. One, how do we transition our manufacturers to make other parts? To make parts for solar, to make parts for wind turbines, to make parts for the hydroelectric, whatever it is. How can we take that knowledge and transfer it? But also the potential attraction of a solar company or a wind turbine company that actually generates the electricity to light your home. Fred Keller is, of course, a huge leader in this, and Fred actually has 2 windmills on his buildings now. He's making small windmills that could actually fit in your backyard. And he has them on his manufacturing plant out in Cascade Township. So on March 11th, the university, Right Place, WIMSA, and the Michigan Economic Development Corporation are hosting a big conference right here on alternative energy where we can play. And of course, as I said earlier, we are already marketing and looking for those kind of companies to also bring here, as well as transition our companies into those new products. What do we need out of Lansing? We need something called a renewable portfolio standard. Very, very critical. If we don't have an RPS standard, our utilities, whether they are municipals or consumers' energy, cannot be compelled to put the electricity generated from a company making wind power and put it on the grid. If it's not on the grid, we can't flip the light switch. So we are unfortunately behind on this one as well. 28 states have renewable portfolio standards, And people like me and others and Imad Mahawili up at Marek are pushing like crazy to get a renewable portfolio standard. If you want to see what a renewable portfolio standard does for a state, look at Texas. They have the largest wind farms in this country generating wind energy. Look at California. And Oregon is making a big play in solar. So that is what it does. When you have a standard like that, you can have a serious conversation with somebody in that industry. We do have a solar company up in Greenville. For those of you from the area, obviously a little north of here, United Solar Ovonics is now employing 400 in their second plant to make thin film solar panels, and they're all going to Europe. 95, which is a good thing in a lot of ways. Exporting goods out of here is good, brings wealth into the community, but that's where it's going because the Europeans are leaders in saying we need to reduce energy costs and we need to get off oil. And so, they are taking almost all of their production. So retention, expansion, attraction, emerging industries. Third is manufacturing innovation. I touched on it, that we really believe we have a manufacturing sector that is innovative. We received part of the WIRED grant. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Workforce Innovation in Regional Economic Development. And with our economic development partners in our 7-county region, created a business plan that is creating something called Innovation Works. And it is a commercialization infrastructure for alternative energy, for sustainable products. We talked about that as well. Your trash is my treasure. We have to do a lot more recycling. But anything, if you have an idea, you can log on an innovation portal, on an idea portal starting Monday, and we can match your intellectual property up with somebody who's looking for it or vice versa. So it's, it could be intellectual property generated by a professor at GVSU who wants to log it on, and we find a manufacturer who could actually do it. Would be validated, and the manufacturer might say, I could really use that. Or we have a manufacturer who goes on and says, by the way, I'm looking to improve my blow molding process, and we'll go out and find the professor or the inventor who could help him do that. So it's a mining for new intellectual property. It is connecting the professor with the idea with the manufacturer who could make it, or it is coaching then that inventor through the process from A to Z until he or she actually has a product to commercialize. So it's a collaborative between Right Place, universities, and all the economic development organizations in the 7-county area. It's very, literally brand new. Number 4, our strategic priority is urban redevelopment. Place matters again. Don't you all want to be in a city that's kind of nifty, where you can go out downtown, where you have some bars, where you have nightlife, where you have cool things to do? Well, when I moved to the United States from Europe, I felt like I fell into a big hole sometimes because there were a half a dozen cities, and I love this country, don't misunderstand me, it's beautiful, but the cities had been abandoned. We abandoned our core. When I moved to Grand Rapids, they rolled the sidewalks up at 7 o'clock at night and we all went home. Well, look at what's happened over the last 15 years. You were too young then, but I remember because I was doing this job. Governor Engler created a couple of key pieces of legislation. One is called Renaissance Zones, and one is called brownfields. And for those of you who are already out working, and I see somebody shaking their head from Wyoming, we have used those 2 laws to a large extent in our communities here to revitalize our cities, to take old properties and redo them. And what you see in this area is just a huge push for that. Without those 2 laws, by the way, we were getting nowhere. We would approach developers back 15 years ago and said, why don't you do that over here? I can't make money doing it. I mean, at the end of the day, it's not a charity developing real estate. But once those 2 laws were passed, it became the thing to do.